Yeah, so Google did not structure it in the 12 days of Christmas format, but they did release some pretty significant new products that are worth focusing on. Again, not going to focus on every single one of them, but I'm going to highlight a couple. The first was Google's Gemini 2.0 was released, and that's its most advanced AI model to date, and it has agentic capabilities that can help developers and businesses and individuals who who use that as well. It supports text, audio, video inputs and outputs, I believe, and it can use tools. It acts agentically, I guess. It goes and uses tools like Google search. And I guess that's what deep research is a product of. Is deep research Gemini 2.0 basically? Is that what it is? Or is it a separate release? I never understand what's what.
I'm looking at the drop-down menu for Gemini, and they're listed separately. So there's
Yeah.
2.0 experimental advanced and 1.5 pro with deep research. I don't know.
They're separate on my drop down too, but I didn't know if it was released the same day.
Oh.
I'm not sure. I heard about deep research from the AI guys from Paul Reitzer and Mike Capurret, and they seemed blown away by it. And when those two are blown away by something, I felt like, okay, that's one I'm going to check out quickly. And so I have to confess that I've used the deep research mode more than Gemini 2.0, but I've been told that 2.0 is performing. I understand 2.0 is performing across all metrics as well as the top models from the other companies. So I don't think Google has caught up in the public's imagination to its competitors in generative AI, but I think they may have caught up in actuality, technologically. So that's a pretty big deal, I think. I've said to you, and you've said to me before, they have some incredible advantages, I feel like, long term, because so many of us use their products for so much of the rest of our lives, Docs and Gmail and all of the ways in which our lives are already kind of infused, that they have an awful lot of data, and an awful lot of integration in our lives. And so it feels to me like just catching up was going to be important, but then they have an opportunity probably to capture a lot of users, given how much we already do with their other products and YouTube, of course, right? YouTube is an alphabet platform, so they have a lot of data. The next one we've talked about we've talked about their product Notebook LM before, and I know you've used it and I've used it to create. Well, it does a lot of cool things. The one that I've used it for is creating podcast. You can feed it a book or a chapter of a book or a paper, an academic paper, and say create a podcast, and it creates this extremely accurate and very realistic sounding podcast where two podcast hosts talk to one another. There's even sort of small talk and laughing, and they interrupt each other and to deliver the content of the material. It's actually a fantastic tool, I think, for getting your content to people who want it in different ways. So we, at the AAA, we have a bunch of educational resources, webinars, and that are pretty valuable to lawyers and to people wanting to be arbitrators. And we want to use this tool to provide that content in audio form so people can, listen to it when they're going for a walk or in their car, or, the ways that we all now get content in new ways. Okay, back to the release. In December, they enhanced that tool in all kinds of new ways with new features like audio overviews. I heard someone saying on one of the podcasts I listened to that you can now interact with the podcast hosts. So you can ask them questions. Yes. Yeah. You can ask them questions about the material that they're talking about. So you could just insert yourself in the podcast, and interact with the material that way. And I think they also increase the capacity and ways that you can customize it and collaborate across your team to make it a more useful instead of just a cool tool. I think it's become one that it's going to be hard not to find use cases for if you work in an organization that has more than one person, which most of us do. So I don't know. Have you played with Notebook LM recently or not yet?
I haven't since the release, but I do think, one of the challenges all organizations have is getting people's eyes on information, getting people to read emails, getting people to read newsletters. There's just too much going on in your inbox. And this feels like a new and magical way to, give people information. Even if you're thinking about, if you're on the law firm side and you're in marketing, you send out those client alerts to people, and probably some of your clients read them and probably some of them don't. But if you just send a podcast and your client can listen to it on the way home, rather than have to sit for a longer amount of time at their desk, that's a big differentiator to me.
At least for me, the being able to listen to things in travel is like one of my life hacks, because I travel all the time. And so on the way to the airport, on the way to the waiting to board the plane, then on the plane, like those are times when I consume a lot of information, and to be able to put even more of the things that I have to consume into that format that now works pretty well for me is pretty great. So, the next one I want to mention briefly, even though I don't really understand anything about how it works, of course, is Google introduced this AI weather model, or they announced it. The DeepMind team, which is their research division, they launched this product called GenCast, which is an AI weather prediction tool that apparently outperforms every other weather forecasting model out there significantly. Like it can make really specific predictions um, significantly far out. I think up to 14 days or so. And I guess what it does is it adapts to the Earth's geometry, and it generates complex probability distributions for future weather. And it provides these really accurate forecasts, especially for extreme weather events, which is a really super useful, impactful, life-saving use case for the technology, which I love. I love like the sooner we see, the ways in which the technology can really make an enormous difference in health and safety is, the sooner we're all going to be like, oh, okay, we're doing this now. We're gonna all get on board and like figure out that this is what's happening. I mean, it's happening no matter what. But I think that the sooner we see things like this, the the better. So I thought that was a really exciting story. I only heard about it. I haven't like seen it operate or can't tell you much more about it. Um, so those were the ones that I thought were worth mentioning. Again, there were a number of others. There was a lot of talk about the quantum chip that they released. I think nobody knows how to use that yet, but it's obviously going to be impactful when quantum computing is something we all do. And it's, I know, very cool that they're working on it, even though no one can really use it yet. And there were a number of other releases as well. But it was a pretty exciting month for Google. I think OpenAI had they got the attention with the 12 days of shipments. I think that was very smart marketing. And I did myself every day. I was like, oh, I wonder what it is today. So it worked, and I feel like otherwise in December, people are like you said, doing other things. So I think OpenAI grabbed the spotlight, but I think Google's specific products are extremely strong. And I see Google creeping up in this race a little bit.
I think Google struggled a little bit and was blindsided by OpenAI and didn't figure out early on enough about how to leverage their strengths in search and access to information and the Google Work Suite. And it feels like that's starting to shift a little bit. Thank you for tuning in to 2030 Vision, AI and the Future of Law. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to our podcast and leave a review. Stay informed and inspired as we continue to explore the AI-driven future of the legal profession. We'll see you next time.